Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Salt and Burn This, a supernatural rewatch podcast. My name is Sami.
I'm Valerie.
And thank you for joining us.
Sorry, I got the laughs. I'm just so excited to just be sitting down. You know? So it's now I'm just like, okay, we're here. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Woo! Well, I'm glad you're amped up. I have to wind down because I have a really, really early morning tomorrow. So.
I'm sorry.
No, it is quite all right.
Okay. Well, thank you for being flexible. I appreciate this. But this was also an episode that I wanted to give special attention to. Mm-hmm. Not super special, but I just wanted to make sure that I did a good job with the rewatch. So, right. Although I actually did wear pajamas to work today. You
did?
Yep.
Oh, by accident or on purpose?
Just ran out of time and I was like, screw it. So I'm not even wearing a real bra. I wore pajamas to rehearsal.
Oh my God. Pajama pants too?
Wore the jeans, grabbed some jeans off the floor, but everything else is pajama-rific.
Well, hey, that's going to make getting ready for bed easy.
Super easy. Pants off, in bed.
Yeah. Season 2, Episode 3, Bloodlust. Is the only good vampire a dead vampire? Seems like a no-brainer. Then Sam and Dean discover a nest of undead who have forsworn drinking human blood and need protection from an obsessed vampire hunter. Written by Sarah Gamble and directed by Robert Singer.
Great combination. I just want to say, again, with the summary of the episode, it gives everything away.
That has been the trend so far. Yeah. So I've not been reading them until after I get done watching the episode.
Okay, good.
Because remember, I didn't have the first episode one, and I was going to do it later. I did it right before you got on. And it was Dean you got a hold on. After the crash, Dean's spirit wanders the hospital corridors as his comatose body hovers at the brink of death, and a Reaper tries to lure him into eternity.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, they don't give away Dad dying, but...
No, but they give away that the Reaper is...
What the monster is, yeah.
Yeah. Boo. So now that we know what's happening in this episode. You mentioned the recap of the first episode and how, stunning and touching that was. This was another good recap.
Yeah.
Because the recap from the previous episode was just, kind of a here we go again type of thing. This one was another tearjerker emotional recap.
Yeah.
And with the music Wheel in the Sky, and all the stuff harkening back to, what torment John was going through to make the decisions he went through to do what he did. And so I just wanted to give another thumbs up to a very strong and emotional recap.
Yeah, this is a thing that they're doing, it seems. I mean, having only been 3 episodes in. They have it, the recap has its own little soundtrack going. Because in the first season, it wasn't that way. Even in DVD world, where they used the real music, it was just kind of the standard supernatural score underneath, or ambient music. It wasn't an actual song per se.
Right, with no emotional tagline to it. Yeah. So I guess they realized that people were responding to the recaps, especially since they don't have a theme song, right? I mean, they don't have opening credits music. So makes sense. So, MapQuest takes place in most of it takes place in Red Lodge, Montana. Never been there. I've always wanted to go to Montana. Just because it seems isn't the license plate tag is Big Sky? Isn't that the state motto is Big Sky?
I have no knowledge of Montana at all. I have a friend who lives there and she posts beautiful photos all the time on Instagram. Exactly. And I'm like, oh wow, what?
Yeah. So I've always wanted to go and at least spend time. I don't think I've even driven through Montana, which is weird.
I've had no reason to because I don't the northern states, I'm kind of like, I got nothing or nobody up there, so.
Yeah, I mean, I've accidentally driven through Iowa a couple of times, but not Montana. So this was an adventure, Red Lodge, Montana, but I have no relationship to it at all.
Let's shout out a couple of the guest stars before we get going.
Okay.
I think because this was like a banger guest star episode.
I had to make a chart.
Yeah, a chart. Oh, wow. Okay, so first, and this is in no particular order whatsoever.
Okay.
First, we have Sterling K. Brown, who is of I looked it up before I got on here, but I don't watch the show, so the title never sticks with me.
This Is Us.
This Is Us, that like major soap opera show that everyone is into.
Yep. I haven't watched it either.
No, that's not really my jam. I have no interest in watching it, but I do like when I saw him at like some event or something, like talking about it, I was just like, oh, I know him.
Yep. But also that other, small movie, Black Panther. He was in Joba. He was the brother. He gets killed off, but... there you go, Black Panther.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a major movie.
Yes. Loved him in this episode. I mean, I hated him, but I loved him.
Yes. Next, we have Miss Amber Benson.
Yes! Buffy!
From the Buffyverse. She played Tara, who was Willow's girlfriend. She just has this thing about her. She's just so...
She's mellow.
She is. There's a word for it that sometimes opera people use, like... simpatico or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
She's got that about her.
Yep. She doesn't have to have frantic emotions to get people to understand what she's saying or what she's feeling. Mm-hmm. Some people have to yell and scream and be, energetic and frantic, and she doesn't. In fact, in neither of the characters, her Buffy character, Tara, and this character, Lenora, you just want to listen to what she has to say. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ralph Alderman. He plays the sheriff.
I didn't know him.
I recognize him.
I laughed at him. I called him the mustachioed sheriff.
Yes, I was like, I said, this mustache is everything.
It is. It was everything.
It is. You may not totally recognize him, but for me, X-Files, Stargate, and I didn't watch Smallville, but it was also on Smallville, which kind of makes his connection back to Jensen.
Oh, right.
But oh my gosh, I loved him as the sheriff in this episode, because I made a note that, like, as a cop in all the Supernatural episodes, this is like the one cop that didn't be like, all right, boys, you better run out of town. And, he didn't have anything against them except they were just two idiots in his office. You know what I mean?
Yes.
He's like, get out. He didn't have to make a point. He didn't have to swing his thing. So, but I think the other person you were thinking, I think you were thinking I was going to say was Ty Olsson. Ty Olsson plays the bartender when you first see him in this episode, and then later in the episode you'll learn his name is Eli. This particular actor comes back as a major player in Supernatural. And this is not a spoiler alert, but I had a question for you. Mm-hmm. Why didn't they threadline this
I know,
character?
that was such a missed opportunity, honestly.
Because when I saw his face, I was like, oh!
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And I started rethinking about how he comes into the later episodes. And I was like, they didn't do it.
No.
They totally could have. Especially the way this was left. The way this episode ends is like, that would have been perfect.
Yeah. Totally missed opportunity there.
Yep. I mean, most of the actors who get called back to do Supernatural again have come back as completely different characters. So this isn't unusual. Right. But now that we're going back and watching it, I'm like, because I at first I thought, maybe I missed a connection later on.
I did too, but then when he said when his name was spoken out loud, I was like, oh. It was just a weird coincidence.
Yeah, exactly. I hate that we're talking in vagaries, but I mean, if anyone who has seen the entire series, they know what they're talking about. If you haven't seen it, you will find out what we're talking about as you watch the show.
Yeah. All right, so we open up the episode with a typical horror scene
Pretty girl running through the woods.
Yes.
For her life, not just jogging.
Yes, in the dark woods, it's foggy. There's some sort of hooded, shadowed figure following her. Right.
But at least she's not screaming or squealing.
That's true.
She's just running. She's that type of scared where you actually can't make noise because of how scared you are. And I was also thankful that they didn't do a lot of like slow motion booby shots, like slow motion boob running, or you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So it was just refreshing to see it's a girl running through the woods being chased by something
a cute
sinister.
Girl.
Yes.
But
you know what? I think if you were running through the woods, if I were running through the woods, I still think we'd be cute.
Yeah.
I think so. Not right now. In my pajamas.
Oh, no. All right. So she gets to a tree. She pauses because she can't hear the thing that's chasing her. She can't hear it anymore.
Because she hides behind a tree and this thing goes running past her. So she's like, whew. Yes. And all the music, all the chase music, all the dun 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 scary music has stopped now that she's hiding behind this tree. So it's dead silent. All you hear is like an owl, like woohoo, woo. That's it.
Okay, great. I'm in the clear. Comes out from behind the tree. Oh, the shadow figure is there.
Yep. And not only is he a shadow figure, he's holding
that scythe blade.
Yeah. A scythe. I think we need to specify this is a sickle. A scythe is sickle. Like what? Okay. Yeah, I think because I keep calling it a scythe. That's what the Grim Reaper of fairy tales carries as a scythe. It's a sickle. It's a handheld, Russian symbol. Yes, hook blade. And swing cuts her head off. Her body's still standing, spurting blood out the neck, and then it collapses and falls next to her decapitated head. And also, as soon as he appears, that's when all the music comes back, and it's like, Bwah! Yeah. So scary moment. Cut to.
So yes, after the title screen, we hear
dun.
AC/DC Back in Black, right?
Dun. Yeah. Yes. But you don't see anything. There are 3 shots of an empty road, and you don't see anything, but the music is playing dun, da-da-dun, da-da-dun. And then in the 4th shot, the Impala comes up over the hill, and you see like Dean grinning ear to ear.
Yes.
And Back in Black. So you see it's, if you didn't go like this, yay, when you're watching, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with you. It was perfect because it's like Sam behind the wheel, he's smiling, windows are down, Sam's in the passenger seat, kind of like grinning at the delight that Dean is experiencing driving his car again.
Yes, and as he should, because oh my God, he did an amazing job refurbishing this car.
So I kind of want to like reach out to that guy, Jack on Instagram, who's like refurbishing his 67 Impala and be like, how long did it take you to get that Impala to like where you could actually drive it, on the road?
And shiny and chromy. And I mean, like all these close-up shots that they do of this car, it's just like in pristine condition.
Yes. And I just want to say at 2 minutes and 57 seconds in, what does Dean say?
Baby, I have 2 minutes, 55 seconds, but.
Oh! All right, so at 2 minutes and 55.5
seconds. Yes, Dean we have the first baby.
He calls the Impala baby, and it is baby from here on out. And again, if you did not throw your hands in the air and woo when you said baby, you're not someone I want to know.
It's appropriate that he called it baby now because he did kind of birth this reincarnation of the Impala.
Yes, after smashing it to bits. Well, after it got smashed to bits and then smashing and then he his smashed repairs. Yeah. Yes. And it was just a great sequence. Like it gave, I think, as a watcher, it gave you like a chance to relax and enjoy, like kind of like deep breath, like, yes, back in Black there. This is the way, this is what we want to see every episode.
Yes. He is giddy. He's giddy to be driving. He's giddy that they have a job to do.
Yeah, he's excited to have 300 more miles to go.
Yes.
Driving. He's like, good. How many more miles to Montana? 300. Good.
So in the next shot, we have the scene with the fabulous mustachioed sheriff.
Yes.
Sam and Dean have upgraded their suits. So they're no longer in their Mormon wear.
Yes, they're reporters, or they're masquerading as reporters. But Dean is still a dork in a suit. He still can't hide his Deanness. Sam can kind of pull it off because he's asking all the intelligent questions, like as a reporter would. And then Dean steps in with well, what about the cattle mutilations?
Right, yeah. So the sheriff is just giving them the lowdown of like everything that has happened. Murders. The murders and decapitations.
Yeah.
So on and so forth. And then Dean makes a point to ask about the cow mutilations and are they part of a satanic ritual, which then sends this mustachioed sheriff into a fit of laughter.
I just love how he explains cattle mutilations. Cows die, they rot in the sun, they explode, all their innards and blood soaks into the ground because of gravity. But then he's like, but it could be Satan.
Yeah.
He's like, what newspaper did you guys say you were from again? And they both say 2 different newspapers.
Yeah, so they were doing fine up until this point.
You're right. Until Dean had to...
Weekly World
News.
I'm new.
Get the hell out of my office.
Yes, he's done.
He's done. With no malice, just get out. Yeah. And I loved that.
Now, that reminds me, during the scene, and then throughout the rest of the episode, did you kind of notice a difference in the directing, or in, like, the camera shots? Like, I could tell there was a difference between this episode and the last one in how it was shot.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
There was different flavor to it, and it was like, oh, this is interesting, like, what's going on here?
Yeah, it was.
And of course, different. I mean, I know there's, like, different directors for every episode, but...
Sure. This was Bobby Singer, right? Yeah, he has a different eye than Kim Manners, and he didn't have to do any, I don't want to say quirky, but he didn't have to do any invested camera trickery in this episode. Yeah. Whereas in the previous episodes, you kind of had to go along for the ride with the camera. Right. And he didn't have to do that in this episode.
But I just mean, like, even in this scene is where I noticed it, where they're talking to the cop, because the camera was placed where the cop is, vice versa. It's like kind of this... I don't know if I had seen this in this show before.
Oh, there's a lot of what they call reverse shot. So you see the camera shows you what the characters are looking at, and then it flips so that you see the characters looking at it. So that's a reverse shot. And he does use that quite a bit in this episode. Yeah. As opposed to angled shots and, the cameras that circle around in real time and things like that.
Yeah. So the next stop, of course, is the mortuary. Where they show up with lab coats.
The lab coats, but like no insignia, no name tags, no ID badges. No. And yet they're able to intimidate this poor lab technician whose name is Manners. Oh my God.
Jeff. I mean, this was slick what they did.
Yeah. Whereas like Dean blew it before in the previous scene, he totally owned it in this scene. He was able to think on his feet and keep things going to get the technician out of the room so that they could look at the body themselves.
Right. Although my question is, why is this guy not questioning these 2 people that he's never seen before?
That's a very
small town mortuary, like, kind of have the same people there all the time.
Especially, again, no insignia, no name badges. Well, apparently Dr. Dorkin is very important, so we had to run off and see Dr. Dorkin.
Yes, and it takes him a long time to go find him.
Right.
So this was a funny little line. Pulling out the body, and, like, they grabbed the box with the head in it. And they're discussing, like, what they're going to try and look for. It's like, oh, wasn't that, like, one satanic cult in Florida? Didn't they, brand insignias on the forehead or something?
Victims, yeah.
And Dean says, so much effed up stuff just happens in Florida.
Right? Florida man does this. Florida
right,
man
and this was before
that.
Florida man, like that meme, because this was in 2006 or 7.
Right. And still, I mean, it hasn't changed, though. I mean,
that's true. I guess it's just always been a thing, and it just evolves into different jokes over time.
Yeah. One of the things I liked about this scene, even just the, I mean, it was gross having to look at a decapitated head and stuff like that. But watching them walk into the room, do the thing with the lab technician, they look like they were working as a team. And it's a lot of the teamwork that we see in later episodes and later seasons because they've been doing this for so long. It's kind of a rote who does what job. And it was so comforting to see them working together at ease with each other. They weren't competing. It was more the brotherly, like, you touch it. No, you touch it. I don't want to touch it. You're a wuss. Okay, I'll touch it. And so it's just kind of, I don't want to say refreshing again, but it was relaxing and enjoyable to see them.
It was just brotherly banter, going on.
Yeah. And they were working a job, and that's how good they are together working a job, that we haven't seen. Of course, I still don't know how long it's been between the end of the last episode and the beginning of this episode, how many jobs they've done in between.
Yeah, if any.
It kind of just felt like they got their groove back.
Right.
Stella got her groove back. Sorry.
Not one of the movie references they make. But they do make a couple Silence of the Lambs.
Of the many, yes, they do.
So Sam's sticking his fingers in this head's mouth.
Looking for something that may have been shoved in there.
But then Dean notices something. They poke and prod a little bit more. And in the gum line, like Sam pushes his finger in it and out pops a little fang. A retractable fang.
But yeah, no, lift. Oh, what did Sam say? Dean, get a bucket.
Yes.
Why'd you find something? No, I'm going to puke. So the decapitated head has fangs, so vampire. That's new.
Yeah. So they hop into this dive bar to try and get some information.
My question about this dive bar, how did they know to go to this bar? Maybe it's just the only bar in town? Because
they drove by it, and then they paused and they kind of looked at it, then drive away. And I think it was just like dive bars are where you go to find things or to find information. Because if this was like one of the only bars in town, then that totally makes sense.
It's just that they kind of gave each other a knowing look, and I was like, did I miss something?
Yeah, they did. And it did it was like an assumption of like,
this is the place to go.
There's a clue, but
okay.
No, I figured it like once the scene played out, that's kind of one of their tricks is to go into one of the local bars and see what they can find out.
Question. Yeah, yes. Exactly. Okay.
Because also, wasn't it the last time that they fought vampires? They were like bar hopper, like leather clad, heavy drinkers.
Exactly. So. Right. They go up to the bartender and he's like, "What can I get you? A couple of beers." I have to tell you, some of the outtakes of this scene was Jensen ordering different things. Oh. And one of the things was like 2 Pinot Grigios, which I don't think Jared couldn't hold that one back after Jensen said that. He's like, I think they were trying to break the bartender. I think they were trying to break the actor. But he held it together, unfortunately. So anyway, they asked the bartender, first they order a couple beers and then they say, "Hey, can you give us some information, slide some money across the bar?" Oh God, what did the bartender say? "We're looking for some people." And the bartender's like, "Yeah, I know what it's like to be lonely."
Yes.
And that's when they slid the money across the bar. They're like, no, we need some information.
So the bartender just, talks about a rowdy group of people that's been here every now and then. They're suspicious. Tells them, like, oh, they live off in a bunker or farm somewhere over there. And while he's telling us this, the boy says, you see in the corner a very, suspicious-looking man smoking a cigarette, giving the evil eye directly at Sam and Dean behind their back and totally eavesdropping on their conversation.
Yep.
And then you see when Sam and Dean leave, he is no longer there, that guy.
Yeah. He's just left his drink and a smoking cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. One more movie reference in this scene. Mm-hmm. When Dean was asking for looking for people. He says something about like, we're looking for people like sleep all day, party all night. That's a direct tagline from the Lost Boys. That was like on the movie posters from Lost Boys. So movie reference number 2. So Sam and Dean take their information and leave, and suspicious guy is also gone. So Sam and Dean are outside, they're walking down this alley, and suspicious guy is not very surreptitiously following behind them.
Yeah.
And so, of course, Sam and Dean are able to, like, basically trick him, circle back, and, like, surprise him in the alley instead of him surprising them. Mm-hmm. And because they think he's a vampire, they're like, show us your teeth. He's like, what? I'm not a vampire. And they're taken aback that this guy knows that there's vampires. And then, they figure out that, he's a hunter. And then it turns into, oh, you're Sam and Dean Winchester. I knew your dad.
Yes. So this is, we talked about guest stars earlier. This is Sterling K. Brown as Gordon Walker. Because I didn't mention his character's name before. His character's name.
Through this entire episode, he's also somebody else who does not emotionally change his, I don't want to say output, but he doesn't emotionally change his performance no matter what he's feeling. It's like you don't see like anger in his face. You don't see sadness in his face. He's not one of those actors in this episode. It's like, so you never really know what he's truly feeling. Even when he's got a knife to his throat in the alleyway with Sam and Dean, he's like, ease off, guys. He isn't like, get off me. He's just kind of even keel. So there's like a little bit of, and I don't want to say deadness, but there's a lack of emotion that plays on his face throughout this entire episode, which always had me like kind of guessing. Like, what is he really thinking?
Keeps you on edge.
Yes.
So it's very interesting that he, has heard of them, and is almost not in awe, but just like, wow, it's crazy. I'm actually finally getting to meet you, and I've worked with your dad before.
Yeah. And he's like, you've heard of us? And, well, you know how hunters talk. No. Yeah. So Sam and Dean are like starting to learn that there's this much bigger world of hunters. Yeah. And apparently they have some notoriety in it.
Yeah.
Which is still kind of a surprise to them.
So it started from the last episode when, they were at the roadhouse and Ellen knew their dad, and, she kind of runs a hunter's watering hole, so to speak. Yeah. And now there's this other guy. So all of a sudden they're being like thrown into the hunter web.
Yes. Yep.
So Gordon has been tracking these vampires for a year. He knows that the barn the bartender told them about is a bust because he checked it out before at one point. Right. And he declines the boys' help. I'm a lone wolf,
Yeah. And then he's like, yeah, but there's a chupacabra if you want to go, chase that. Like, so was he making that up? Was there actually a chupacabra, or was he making up it like a, fictitious thing to go and chase? Right. But did you notice his car? Like, what is it? Every hunter has like this badass muscle car.
Ugh. I mean, you can call that car a badass muscle car, but
it was all souped up. I mean, it was an El Camino. I mean, there's nothing.
Yeah, I'm not a big.
Oh, okay.
So the thing about El Caminos, I was always just like, why?
I never liked El Caminos, but that one had like the big hickey on the hood, and it was, clearly...
Yes, and he's got a really sweet like weapons arsenal thing.
Yeah, he's just like slides
from the back seat.
Yeah, it had his sickle on it. It had all these weapons on it. And it's like, so far, it's like dad had the badass, electronic, trunk thing. He's got the slide out thing. Dean and Sam still have like the trunk. Yeah. That you have to prop open with a shotgun.
Yes.
So, well, I'll just say, let me rephrase the badass. That hunters seem to have vintage cars.
Yes, I did notice that as well. I was just like, oh, that's kind of funny that part of the hunter uniform
persona. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And through that entire scene, it was kind of like lightly raining, drizzling. And I know it rains in Canada a lot, but I find it interesting that Supernatural works it into the atmosphere, into the scene.
So after this encounter, the next scene we see is some sort of utility worker or factory worker. He's got like the coverall
jumpsuit,
kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
So he's sitting alone in his space, and he hears something. So then he goes around and tries to go check it out. He wanders all around the mill or the factory, wherever this place is.
It's like a lumber mill, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of what I gathered from later. Here's something like kind of behind him, pulls out a knife from his sleeve.
Right? Which I always keep,
Right. And then out jumps Gordon.
Right.
Ready to go. And out come the fangs.
Yep. The fight's on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So vampire guy is fighting Gordon. And I just want to say Gordon sucks as a fighter because he gets his ass kicked.
Totally. And he gets like caught in a James Bond situation,
Yeah, like on a conveyor belt that isn't moving, but he's like gonna get his head cut off essentially. There's like a giant saw that's like a paper
like a hacksaw kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm like, he gets punched so many times, he's out, and he's up. I mean, this fight was over before it started,
right?
And out of nowhere, like just before the blade, the saw blade comes down on his neck, he's magically pulled out of the way. So Sam grabs his feet, he's pulled off the conveyor belt. It's not really a conveyor belt, and then turn around, and there's Dean, who then like starts punching away and beating on the vampire.
Oh yeah,
with a spear or something, like a grappling hook. I don't quite know.
Yeah, there's something long and sharp and pointy that he hits him over the head with a few times, and then stabs him and impales him to this.
Impales him. Yeah, and then very slowly, like reaches up and grabs that saw that was going to cut off the head of Gordon, and manages to decapitate this vampire slowly.
Yeah.
And difficultly. And this was one of the most disturbing scenes because Sam watched this happen, and Sam was like, whoa, he was really uncomfortable.
He was disturbed. Yeah, he was disturbed by Dean's pleasure in just like pummeling the shit out of this guy. Like, cause he just like rails a few like hits into him before, like while he's impaled onto this thing. It's not just like a quick gun.
It's not like a machete cut the head off like they've done in previous episodes.
Right. Right.
Now
granted, they don't show this actually happening. All you see is the blood splattering onto Dean's face as
but he's not affected by that. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't anything. He just like the blood splatters on him, and he just keeps going. And it was really disturbing to watch.
And Gordon also took pleasure in that. He's like, he's thankful that they came around and saved him in the nick of time, but
he enjoyed. The decapitation process.
I guess I gotta buy you that drink now that I promised you earlier.
Right? I made a note afterwards. I thought about it that the vampire that they just killed, even though he had clearly beaten Gordon, and was going to just kill him, didn't bite him. He could have just, wouldn't vampires be like, I got you, bite you. Whether it's to turn you or feed on you, he didn't do that. He was just going to kill him. Thought that was interesting. Back at the bar. Gordon's buying around the drinks.
Yes. Gordon and Dean are in good spirits. They are just like having a great time.
They are
Sam
pumped.
is like the exact opposite. He's
buzzkill, but also just kind of pissed that they're having such a good time.
Yes.
I mean, and Dean even says, remind me to like beat that buzzkill out of you later.
Right. Yeah. When Sam leaves. But anyway, Dean is trying to be like, oh, come on, Sammy, like have a good time. Gordon.
Yeah, you need. Gordon says, you need to lighten up, Sammy.
And Sammy's like, nope, he's the only one that gets to call me that. Like, immediately.
Boom. Boom. And it's like, finally, we get that, that brothers bond over possession of who gets the nicknames. Yeah. Because up until now, it's been like, don't call me Sammy, don't call me Sammy. Only he gets to call me Sammy.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes. Yes. It was just like that because they had a look to each other. Like Dean was like, that's my brother,
Yeah.
So back at the motel.
Sam eventually leaves. He's just still pissed. And he's just like, fine, I'm just going to go because this is not fun for me and I am not fun for you.
So I'll just take myself out.
There is notably a camera shot where he puts the keys on a little cactus shaped stand, a ring,
in the
paperweight
motel
of some
room.
kind. Yes.
Yeah, because Dean tossed him the keys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought it was a pretty cute motel room. It wasn't like
I did too. It was
filled with taxidermy or anything. It was
no. It was like a oddly enough a southwestern vibe up in Montana.
yeah, a little bit. But even like in later shots, like there's different shots of Sam in the motel room, and I'm like, it's a really nice bedspread, or oh, it's a nice little picture on the wall. It wasn't campy like other rooms had been.
No, but I saw the curtains hanging up on the window, and I was like, oh, my mom would really love those curtains. She loves that type of stuff.
Oh, Mom.
I know, Mom. Would not like the show, but would love the curtains.
Yes.
Back at the bar, Dean and Gordon are swapping stories kind of about their hunting youth, what got them into hunting. Dean has obviously told the story about Mom burning up on the wall, and he's now at the point where he's like, yeah, like Dad took us around, and I was starting to realize that I was seeing all this crazy stuff that, people my age would never see in their lifetime. And then Gordon tells a story about how he got into hunting, which is he saw a vampire come through the window and attack his sister. And he shot at it, not knowing what it was,
Right.
In hindsight, it's like, oh yeah, that obviously didn't do any good. But by the time I, came to, got back, Vamp was gone, my sister was gone. So I
learned about vampires.
Yeah. got into the business, so to speak, and hunted it down, killed it.
That was his first kill, was the vampire that took his sister. And they're both kind of they weren't high-fiving each other, but they were giving the nods. They're like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
They're giving each other the nod for their stories.
Yeah. Really odd bonding moment that they're having here. Yeah. Because then Dean later, or shortly after that, starts to get very honest with Gordon and almost treats him like a therapist, if you will. When he's like, you never think that your dad is going to die. You look up to him like a superhero. He's
we
invincible.
Always thought of him as indestructible. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because the thing is, Gordon says, and it's a bummer about, he's like, well, my sister, that was a long time ago, but your dad, that's fresh, it's a real bummer. And that's when Dean opens up like, we always thought Dad was indestructible. And this was a real, a blow.
And he says, I'm not dealing with it well. And I can't tell Sammy this because I got to be big brother and, put on a brave face. But it really did something to me.
I can't believe he said that.
I know.
I mean, I know he needed someone to talk to because, in the last 2 episodes, he wasn't doing it. And then that's when Gordon, the psychiatrist, is like, well, it's because you've got this hole inside you.
Yeah.
No matter, what good things come your way, the hole isn't being filled unless you're out there hunting and killing.
Yeah, he says, use that pain because it'll make you a better hunter. Yeah. And I really liked this line that he said, that it's not a crime to need your job.
Yep.
It's one of the good things that Gordon said.
Yeah, exactly. But right before he says that, he says, use your anger to hunt and kill. And just because of the show I'm working on right now, Malcolm X said that very same thing.
Oh, really?
Use your anger. Yeah, he said, use anger and hate, not love. That's the only way our message is going to get across.
Oh.
Because they were watching Martin Luther King fail at his vision for peaceful protest and making changes. And he's like, the only way we're going to get people to listen to us is if we give back to them what they're giving us, which is hate and violence. Oh, and so, and it's not that Malcolm X was like this militant guy, but he's like, he saw what wasn't working.
Right.
Right. And he's like, this other thing has to work. So anything, I just thought it was interesting. As Susie said, use your anger to kill. I was like, oh, Malcolm X.
Oh, that is interesting.
So back at the motel.
Yes, it's a little Roadhouse Ellen cameo.
Yay!
Yes, which was very nice to see because Sam is now kind of using her. Yeah, he's like,
yes,
I need a person. A resource person.
Yes, and she's already provided answers for them and has shown that she's knowledgeable.
She's been very open-armed about them. Like she took to them,
Yeah. Well, the first thing she says is like, Sam, hi,
Yes,
how
I
are
know,
you? It was like so nice. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, Sam calls her. I don't know if we said that.
I don't know if we did either, but
yeah.
Yes, he calls her and to ask about Gordon. You know, she's like, "Oh, do you know this guy?" She's like, "Oh yeah, you know, he comes by here. He's a really good hunter."
Oh,
Why do you ask? It's like, "Oh, because we're here. We're like working a job with him, sorta." And immediately her tone turns. She's like, "No, no, 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 no,
no,
don't do that.
Don't work with him. Walk away. Walk away." Yeah, and Sam's like, "But you just said he was, you know, a good hunter." And then I love this analogy. He's a good hunter, the way Hannibal Lecter, Silence of the Lambs, is a good psychologist. Psychiatrist.
Yes, I was like, "Oh, a second Silence of the Lambs reference."
Yes, but brilliant reference.
Yes.
I mean, good analogy. Good analogy, you know? So, but and then I have to question, I'm like, he may be a good hunter, but he's a terrible fighter. But yes. But yeah, 2 Silence of the Lamb references in one episode.
No.
But
she's like, he's super dangerous. He's reckless. The best thing that you could do right now is just
get out of his way. Yep. Just go. And she's like, "Promise me, Sam." He's like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Okay. Back at the bar.
Those 2 boys are like really feeling each other. Gordon's giving a speech about how, see, you and I, we see things in black and white. There are no shades of gray when it comes to monsters,
hunting.
Evil things like that, hunting.
If it's evil, kill it.
Yes.
And Sam is like, again, nodding along.
Dean.
You know, jeez. Dean. Remember in episode 1 when I said I couldn't tell the difference between the 2? Yeah, Dean is still, he's not like big nodding along, but you can see that he's still searching and finding a connection.
Yes, or he's also kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, that is how I've been feeling.
Yeah, it feels good for him to hear somebody else say that.
Right. As opposed to Sam, who's always saying, you know, let's think about it.
Yes.
You know, everything is a study and a discussion. And he's just saying black and white, evil, kill it, done.
Yep. And Gordon is just like, you know, Sam isn't like that. You know, he's not like us. And I'm not saying he's wrong, but he's just different.
He's not us. Yeah. Which makes me mad because he used it to kind of drive a wedge between them. Yeah. Like me better than your brother.
So back in Sam's, or in the motel area, you know, Sam went off and got a soda.
I love those old soda machines, by the way. Yeah. I love those. Those used to be like the best thing about like car stops with my family. Can we get a soda?
His little spidey sense is tingling. He can feel somebody like watching him from afar.
Yeah, well, it's because there's like obvious rustling somewhere.
Yeah.
You know? So he's like, okay, there's somebody here, you know?
Yeah.
And so he does the whole like, I'm going to drink my soda outside and drink and look, but he doesn't see anything. And nothing happens. So he goes and lets himself into the hotel room. And then he's like leaning up against the door like, I'm an idiot. You know, I can't believe I just like did that.
Yeah.
And then he's jumped.
I know.
He's like, oh,
they got the better of him inside of his own hotel room.
Yep. In this fight scene, he broke his wrist.
In real life?
In real life, shooting this scene, broke his wrist but didn't know it. In fact, he didn't know until at least it wasn't until they were either shooting the next episode or the episode after that. When he's like, God, this just hurts too much. And finally went to the doctor. They're like, your wrist is broken. I don't know if it was his hand or his wrist. So I don't think it's the next episode, but the episode after that, like halfway through, you see him with a cast. Yeah, because they had to finish shooting the episode that they started without the cast.
Oh no.
Yeah, so they had him in like a soft cast when he was off camera, off set. Yeah, and then when he would shoot, and so they finally put him in a hard cast for the next episode and explained it away by something. Yeah. But yeah, he totally broke his wrist and didn't know it. And this fight scene was like 2 seconds. Because he gets knocked out. It's like, boom, he's on the ground, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder why. It's probably because he broke his wrist.
Mm-hmm. Did they blindfold him or put like a hood over his head?
Put like a hood, pillow sack.
Put him in a car, and there's this beautiful shot when they're driving over the bridge.
Yes, it was like this wooden bridge. It looked like it was just a pier, like it was just driving to the end of a pier.
Yeah.
But I guess it was over a river or something. But a beautiful wooden bridge. And you could hear the wood slats like as they were going over it. Yeah.
Yes,
stunning shot.
But also like the sun was setting, it's just like this orange sky and this like gray, blue, green river thing. I was just like, oh, I really like this shot.
I love that shot, but it was kind of contrary to what was going on.
Totally. It was like, oh, beautiful shot of a kidnapping.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. So they end up taking him to this house. It looked like just a regular supernatural style house.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, bartender is there. They whip off, I guess he's tied down. He's tied to a chair. Sam is tied to a chair with his pillowcase on. They whip off his pillowcase, and there's the bartender, all vamped out. I was hey. And just as he's kind of, I don't want to say taunting Sam, but I guess he is. He's like, I'm going to, I'm going to bite you. Enter Lenore. Enter
Miss Amber Benson.
Yes, exactly. And once again, a vampire walks in and calls off another vampire. Because in the first vampire episode, Dead Man's Blood, same thing. That jerk guy was making the couple drink beer. And it's, I keep calling her Leather Girl, who comes in and is like, stop teasing them. We have to save them. So Lenore comes in and is like, Eli, stop. Don't do that. That's not who we are. That's not what we do.
I find it funny that Amber Benson from Buffy the Vampire Slayer plays a vampire.
A vampire. Yes. Yes. I think she probably got a kick out of that too.
Probably. They do this to another Buffy character.
Oh, they do?
Later on. Yeah. So I think this is like little jokes.
But I bet she had a good time because she finally got to be like,
the monster.
Yeah, exactly. But she's not a monster.
No.
She explains to Sam that the reason they brought him there was to convince him that yes, they're vampires, but they don't kill people, and they haven't been killing people. But they are responsible for the exploded cattle.
Yes.
Because they drink cow's blood, which is disgusting to them, but they do it because they want to live in peace. They don't want to kill people. Yeah. And Sam,
they're vegan vamps, so to speak.
Yes. Except for the cow part. But Sam isn't buying. He's like, I don't buy it. She's like, we have a right to live. We want to live in peace. And he's like, I don't buy it.
I want you guys to stop chasing us. And she's like, I brought you here to convince us to leave us alone. Yes.
Yeah. We're leaving town. Just, but don't follow us, please. Yeah. And Sam's like, I don't believe you. What can you do to prove, that you're not vampires, And she's like, I'm going to let you go. That's my proof. And they do. They tie him back up, hood him back up, and drive him back to the motel and leave him there.
Yep. Without a scratch on him.
Without a scratch on him. Yes. Although I think Eli wanted to, maybe
he wanted to, yeah. So back at the room, Gordon and Dean have been there for a little bit. They're going up, they're looking at a map, they're going over some plans, maybe.
Where could the nest be? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Dean is still very much into this. You can see the kind of spark in his eye, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like he's almost going, yeah. He's not doing that, but that's kind of what's happening. He's like, I wanted, because doesn't he say, I forget when he says it. He's like, we've been looking for a hunt, or I've been looking for a hunt. I've been killing for a hunt, or I've been jonesing for a hunt. He says something like that. Like fired up.
Yes.
To go and kill something.
Yes.
Yeah, it's one thing to have a job that requires you to kill. It's another thing to want to go out and kill.
Yeah. So then comes the question. I was like, man, where's Sam? He's been gone for a while. Gordon makes a jab that's like, oh, he seems like the type that would go for a walk.
Take a walk. Yep. Enter Sam.
And then, cue Sam. That's my cue.
Somebody call my name?
Yeah. Pulls Dean outside and basically tells him what happened.
And tries to convince Dean that we should just go. We should just drop this case. There's nothing here for us. We need to go. Yeah. And Dean isn't buying it.
No, he's not buying it. Really resisting that idea in a really angry way. No, if it's supernatural, we kill it. Period.
Yep. And Sam's like, no, that's not our job. Our job is to hunt evil. And if things aren't killing anything, then maybe they're not really evil. And I had a little ... question for Dean. Tess was supernatural as a Reaper, right?
Yeah.
Was she evil?
Yeah.
Right?
I was also gonna pull up. Sam could have used, many things as an example. Max as an example.
Oh, right.
He was basically supernatural. He could have used himself. This is like, something supernatural is happening to me. You're going to kill me?
Right? You're going to kill me? I'm not evil yet. I'm not evil. Yeah. But they didn't bring in, but Sam didn't bring any of that up. But that was just one of my, moments. Because obviously if they did bring that up, they'd be like, oh, well, okay. So I guess we don't kill supernatural only if it's evil, and then end of episode. So, so
they're still arguing. But then you also see Gordon, behind the wall, totally eavesdropping on them.
And he heard everything.
Yes, especially when Sam said, when Dean said, where did you go? And she's like, I don't know. I know that we went over the bridge out of town.
Yep. But, and so Dean and Sam are still bickering, but they stop because Sam says to Dean, you're not doing Dad's memory any justice with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Dean's like, okay, and starts to walk away, turns around and just punches Sam.
Yes.
Totally sucker punches him. And Sam doesn't retaliate. He just kind of, gathers himself and is like, okay.
Yeah. Well, I just want to point out, during their arguing, Sam mentions that he doesn't trust Gordon because of what Ellen had told him. And Dean is like, why would you believe Ellen? We barely know her. I'm going to go with Gordon. And Sam makes a very excellent point in that, it's just like, and Gordon is such a good friend. We literally just met this guy yesterday.
Right. He's not Dad, who are you
Yes, and that's when he goes into you're just trying to use Gordon as a dad replacement.
Right. And that's when he gets punched.
Yes.
I want to say that in their, I think it's after the punch that they kind of settle that argument there. And they're like, Sam says, okay, I think I know where this place is. And so they decide to go to the nest. And Dean says, well, how do you know where it is?
Oh, this is much after because Dean is just like, I don't care what you say. I'm going to go find this nest no matter what. And then bolts into the room, assuming to grab Gordon. Yeah. Sam chases after him, still trying to talk him out of it. But they notice that Gordon is gone.
Yep. And they're like, fine, we'll go after him.
Yeah, he must have went to go find the nest. We got to go after him. Dean's like, no, we got to help him. Sam's like, no, we got to stop him. So they're still butting heads there.
Right.
But the main goal is we got to go after him.
We got to go. Yeah. I think it's funny in this episode, there's a lot of, you think, responses to, oh, he must have snaked the keys. You think?
Yeah.
Because the keys are gone.
The keys are not on that little cactus stand.
No, which I thought was very cute. Yes. Yes, you're right. Because then he has the hot wire baby and he's like, oh, I just got this car working again. But he is, of course, able to hot wire the car and off they go.
Yes. And then that's when Dean is like, wait, so, it's over the bridge, but then what? Do you know where this is? And he's like, well,
it's about 4.5 minutes from the turn off of the bridge or something. And Dean says, how do you know that? Sam says, I counted. And I wrote down, Sam has good kidnap skills.
Oh, yes. Yes, because he was also paying attention to we turned left out of here, we turned right out of here.
Going uphill. Yeah. So he must have been paying attention to the texture of the road and the feel of the turn. So good kidnap skills. If you're going to get kidnapped, do it with Sam.
Yes. In which Dean backhand compliments him. He's just like, you're good. You may be a monster pain in the ass, but you're good.
Yep.
Which was an odd tone change from moments before when he literally punched Sam in the face.
Right. Maybe that was his way of mini apologizing.
Yeah, I guess
throw a compliment so you don't remember that I just punched you in the face.
Yeah. So back at the nest, or the house, Lenore's packing. Eli is resistant to this. He says, they're just going to keep chasing after us no matter what. We got to just kill them. Just stop it from here. Stop running away and face it and kill them.
Yep. And Lenore's like, no, that's violence begets violence, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We kill them, then there's someone going to notice it, and more anyway. Yeah. Violence begets violence.
They're both right in a way, you know?
Absolutely.
Not that I want to condone, like, killing them, the hunters, but, you know, he is right. It's like, we're just always going to be running.
Right.
And she's right in that there's always going to be someone there, you know.
Right.
Cut off one head and two more go back, basically,
right.
you know.
We have to be true to ourselves. We don't want to kill. We don't want to be those people. So it's about who do you want to be?
Yes.
As opposed to what's going to solve our problems.
Yes.
And she's right.
Big
she's
softie.
like, she says, we changed. We should give them a chance to change. You know, who would have thought that we could have made this change?
Yeah.
Let's give them a chance to make a change.
Yes. Yes. She still has hope.
Yep. And Eli, like, begrudgingly agrees and goes off to, like, gather the rest of the nest, which isn't there at the house.
Yeah. So then there's this, like, interesting driving montage of, you know, Gordon sitting angrily in his car, going over the bridge, and then the next shot is Sam and Dean driving silently somewhere
over the bridge.
Yeah. It was a weird interlude shot. I was kind of like, what?
It really is. My question was, why did Gordon sit on the side of the road for a second? But I think it's because he was just guessing, because he didn't have Sam still telling him directions.
Right, and that was a question I had. A moment later, when, you know, Lenore is loading a box into the truck, and then Gordon, like, comes up behind her and grabs her, stabs her with a knife.
Stabs her slowly.
Yeah.
At first, when I saw that knife, because it was covered in blood, I was like, oh, he got Eli. I thought he killed Eli first and then grabbed her. I didn't realize that it was, you know,
covered in dead man's blood, bitch.
Yeah, bitch. I'm like, with the bitch. Because she's not a bitch. She's done nothing to him. But because she's a vampire.
But for Gordon, that is inappropriate.
Absolutely, I know. But it irked me, and it was supposed to.
But yes, my question was, like, how did Gordon find this place?
He's just that good at
the only clue he had was over the bridge out of town. And he very quickly found this place. I guess maybe he's just checked all of these other places. You know, it's a process of elimination. You know, maybe he had, like, a pool of 6 or 7 houses to choose from, and this was one of the only ones that was over the bridge.
That makes sense, because he and Dean were talking about, I've checked this half. You know, all that's left is this half, you know, and so maybe he just deducted, you know.
Maybe, but it was still just like, Sam had these very specific memory directions, you know, like where to go, and all Gordon had was the bridge out of town.
But I guess that's because that's what makes him a good hunter.
Yes.
He's just not a good fighter. Okay. Yeah, so, oh, God, just watching him put that knife in her was...
I know.
He wasn't there to kill her. He was there to torture her. And he did. And Sam and Dean walk in the middle of Gordon now having tortured Lenore by like slicing her with the knife that has dead man's blood. So like every time he cuts her with the dead man's blood, it's poisoning her.
Yes.
It's not killing her. It's just making her weak, and she can't respond, and she can't defend herself. And I think the cool thing is Dean sees this, and suddenly things are no longer black and white, because Gordon didn't just kill her. Now he's toying with her and torturing her. And I think Dean there's a look on Dean's face. It's like,
Yeah, there was a pause. For me, it was when, you know, Sam was trying to make him stop. This is unnecessary. You know, she's not hurting anybody. And he's like, yeah, you're right. She's not going to tell us any information. So I should just kill her. Pulls out like a big ass clean knife.
Yes, he pulls out a knife.
A knife. Yes.
Sharpened.
And very, like, matter-of-factly, it's just like, I just sharpened it, so it'll be humane when I behead her.
Yeah. And Sam is like, don't do that, and steps in, like, I'm going to just take her. Like, you don't have to kill her, I'm just going to take her.
Yes.
And instead of killing the girl, Gordon grabs Sam.
Yes, puts a knife to Sam. And that's when Dean is just like, oh.
One step too far. Yeah. He pulls out a gun, he's like, let him go.
Uh-huh.
And this is where my point about Gordon's expressions, he doesn't get angry. He doesn't get maniacal. He just says, hold on, I'm going to show you something.
Yeah.
Slices Sam's wrist or his arm and holds it above Lenore's face and drips blood on her face. Again, just watching his face, he's like, see what's going to happen? And she vamps out. And he's like, see, told you. He's not angry. He's not out of control. He's just himself.
Yeah, he's methodical.
Yes, even tone. Yeah, so I thought it was so smooth the way he did it. Unfortunately, poor Lenore, because of the human blood being so close to her to proximity,
she's in a weakened state from all of this dead man's blood. You know, she's like feral.
Yeah.
Before this, though, like while they're still having like this gun and knife moment, Dean is trying to like talk him down and being like, "Listen, I know you hate vampires because they killed your sister, but we just gotta." And then Gordon is like, "No, he didn't kill her. I did because he turned her. So I just killed her because she wasn't my sister human anymore.
She was a thing.
Didn't even blink. Was
like,
and you would do the same."
What? Yeah. Dean was like, "You what?"
Yes. There were moments in this episode where I was like, I don't know about this writing. You know, it was a little bit too pointed for me at moments. And this was one of them where Gordon was just like, no, I didn't even blink. And you wouldn't either. It didn't feel like a natural conversation to me.
Right. Especially knowing what we know about Dean, because Dean would blink. That's the thing.
Right. And then I thought, and was like, well, wait a second. Could you imagine Dean even... You know, if Sam returned, you know, Dean just like not blinking and killing Sam because he were a vampire? Absolutely not. So then I was like, okay, I guess the writing isn't that bad, but there were moments where Gordon, you know, honestly, while I loved Gordon as a character, you know, what he is, I feel like some of his dialogue could have been better.
Written or delivered?
Written.
Okay.
And not just him. I think there were dialogue moments in this episode where I was like, this is not their strongest work, I think.
Yeah. Well, especially like Lenore's stuff, because, you know, it's been said before that the original vampire said, we just want to live in peace.
Yeah.
Even though they were killing people. Yeah. Yeah. We deserve to live too. You know, and so it's kind of the same message, except she proved to be, you know, a non-killing vampire.
Right. So then after he reveals he had killed his sister after she got turned into a vampire, then he slices Sam's arm open and baits Lenore with his blood to turn her feral. Yes. It's like, see, she's just a monster. You know, you're going to tell me that this is a good thing here? Yeah. No, this is who she is and who she always will be. Yeah. And then Lenore reins herself in.
She's able to, like, make her teeth disappear, you know, and she's like, no. And she's able to fight back her natural instincts. Yes. And Sam's like, see, this isn't your typical vampire. And that's where Dean says, Sam, take her, get her out of here. Yeah. Well, Sam was able to pick her up out of the chair.
Well, yes, he's like 6'9" or something. So.
Well, I meant, let me rephrase that. Gordon was not keeping him from removing her.
Oh, I see, yes.
That's what I meant to say. So he takes Lenore out of harm's way. You can't do this.
Leaving Dean and Gordon to be at gun/knife point.
Yes.
With each other.
Because Gordon still wants to go after her. You know, and Dean says, no, if you're going to have to go through me to get to them. And Gordon's like, okay.
Let's have a little talk. Dean says, okay, fine. You relinquish your weapon. I'll relinquish mine. I'll put it down on the table here.
Yes.
Immediately, Gordon like takes a cheap shot at Dean.
Yes, exactly. And Dean's like, son of a... Because then, while Dean's like recovering from being sucker punched, Gordon grabs his knife back. And Dean had removed the magazine from his gun. Right. So he doesn't have time to like, you know, put the bullets back in. Yeah. And so he just like bare knuckles.
Yeah, his face is just like, oh man.
yeah.
I have to fight this guy with the big knife.
Yes.
Empty-handed.
Yes. And he does. I mean, there's some back and forth, but once again, Gordon, not a great fighter, because Sam just kicks the crap out of him. Yes. Slams him through furniture.
With a knife in his hand, yes. He does throw Dean into some furniture, which, you know.
Shatters, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. He crushes a table.
Yes. And even through this, Gordon is still trying to, I called it like bringing him to the dark side, being like, no, you're a killer like me.
Yeah.
This is who you are. You're not that guy. You're this guy.
Right. Yeah, join me.
While they're still fighting, which I thought was also a little strange. But anyway, but maybe that's just who Gordon is. He's just that intense of a person.
You're not like your brother. You're like me, which is what I think is like the final straw for Dean. And he's just like, I'm going to shut you up for good now. And punches him out. And I love this moment. He kind of picks him up again and he's got him in a headlock. And he's just I think he's looking to just like put him in a chair to tie him up. But as he's leaving the room, he sees like a wall in the doorway and you see his thought process. And he just like rams his head, Gordon's head into the wall. And he's like, oh, sorry. It's like, so everything that Dean does to Gordon is like deserved. Every punch, every, sucker clunking into the wall, it totally deserved.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. And then proceeds to tie a semi-conscious Gordon to a chair.
Very loosely.
Yes. One like loop.
One loop around and then like tie it in a bow in the back.
Yes. That's a little clove. What is that? A clove hit? A clove knot? Whatever.
I don't know.
Oh,
I didn't see what kind of knot he did, but it was like, that's one rope. Are you kidding me?
Yep. And Dean, Sam comes back in, is like, oh no, it's the next morning.
Yes, sunrise has happened.
Yep. Sam comes back.
Sam comes back to a Dean and Gordon having a stare off at each other.
Yeah. Again, no expression on Gordon's face. Just.
Oh, he looked pissed to me.
Oh, yes, but not like, he just was like.
I don't know. I thought I read like, I will never, ever, ever forget this.
Yes.
And if I ever see you again, I'm going to literally slice you to pieces. That's what I read from his face,
Definitely made an enemy of Gordon.
Oh, yeah. Which was maybe not the best idea with someone like that.
But, Dean, I thought that was interesting. When Sam comes back in, he says to Sam, did Lenore get away? Doesn't call her a vampire. Calls her by name. And Sam says yes, and so did everybody else. So the nest was able to vamuski. So just they decide that they're going to leave Gordon there. They'll call authorities, in a couple of days. He's like, do you have to tinkle before we go? No? Okay, I guess we're going to leave then. And just before they walk out the door, or before they start to walk out the door, Dean turns around, looks at Gordon, and just punches him so hard that he like flips over backwards in his chair. All right, now I'm good. Now we can go. Yeah. So yes, I was like, oh, they left him alive. Definitely not the smartest thing they've done, but what else are they supposed to do?
Right. Wow, what a 180 from earlier in that day when Dean was like fawning over Gordon, being like,
right.
Oh,
and
wow, you're so cool.
Punching his brother. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Speaking of punching his brother, he does then, as they're walking out of the house,
he's like,
offer Sam a freebie. So it's like, okay, fine. I was a douchebag. Just hit me. Hit me. Sam takes a rain check.
Good for him, because the worst thing is to know that somebody has a thing on you, whether it's a punch or a pinch or a slap across the face. And they don't have to give it to you right away. Yes, I'm thinking about How I Met Your Mother.
Yes. Yeah. Did you watch that show?
Off and on.
Oh, okay.
Off and on. I'm not. I never.
The slap bet was pretty amazing. It was amazing because it was stretched throughout, I think, a few seasons, because they would subtract slaps, they would add on slaps.
Oh my god!
And it always came at like the most unexpected moment.
Awesome.
And it was giant Jason Segel slapping little Neil Patrick Harris. And it was like all of his body weight into it. And there was one episode he did 2 or 3 in like one go. First he did like 1 and then he sat down and then did another one.
That's exactly what I was picturing when Sam said rain check. I was like, oh no, that can come at any time.
Yes.
Oh,
because Neil Patrick Harris was always just like, Flinching constantly. But anyway, it mellows down into a serious moment after that, where Dean says, "Man, I wish we never would have taken this job because now
it changed everything."
Yes, because now the shades of gray are there. It's not black and white anymore like I want it to be, because that makes it easy
to just kill or not kill. Yeah. And then they start thinking about all the hunts that they went on as kids with their dad and how their dad raised them to kill, kill, kill. Supernatural equals evil, and we kill it.
Yeah.
You know, and now we know maybe not. You know, hate begets hate. And Dean admits that. He's like, Dad raised us to hate, and I feel that hate. I was feeling that hate today. Yeah. I wanted to kill that vampire. And luckily that's when Sam says, but you didn't. And that's the difference between you and Gordon. Yeah. Is you didn't kill him. You know, you felt it, but you went against it because you thought about it. And it kind of seems like a little Band-Aid to, you know, a nice little package wrap up the end of this episode. You know, and Dean jokingly, you know, says, yeah, you know, I guess you're right. Good thing I had you with me, you know, to be that voice of reason, even though you're a pain in my ass. And Sam says, like, well, I guess I'll have to stick around, you know, to be a pain in your ass. Yeah. Sam gets in the car. Dean doesn't. And this shot, the camera catches Dean in this look of, this doesn't solve anything. Like, there's still so much more that I'm dealing with in this moment. You know, I may have said, okay, but it's like, and it was a beautiful pan around Jensen's face. There was a natural lens flare that happened. And I mean, it was a great shot.
No, it was. One of my art teachers back in school was so anti lens flare.
She must hate J.J. Abrams then.
It was in my Photoshop class, and every day we had to do like a daily piece. For the love of God, do not ever put a lens flare on it. I will automatically fail it.
But this was a natural lens flare.
It doesn't matter. He thinks they're like the laziest way to like make it look. Emotion. I don't. I like the lens flare, but every time I see one, I just think of him.
Have you watched any of the newest Star Trek movies? You know, like
I have. Abrams? Yeah.
It's like lens flares inside a starship.
Right.
I mean, every turn of the lens, every angle, there's like this lens flare off of the fluorescent lights. It's like, come on! But this was, okay, I hear you with your point. I was moved. I mean, because it also kind of framed his face and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, I thought it was a well done shot. And the emotion that Jensen is showing is there's something that he's battling on the inside, and he's still not ready to tell Sam what it is. Yeah. But he's gonna tamp it down, because he like takes a little bit of gets in the car. Everything is fine, because now they're driving off into the sunset in Baby. Yep.
Credits. And you know what? He tamps this down for a while, because in the commentary of the first one, you know, when they were talking about the secret that Dad told him. Yeah. And then they talk about, like, when Dean finally does reveal it, like, they couldn't even remember when it was. It was like, it's a while after he says it, right? It's like episode 4, 5. Gosh. Wait, 7. 9, episode 9.
Oh, my God. Oh, my gosh.
Whatever it is, we have a while before
we know. So Sam is going to be suffering. I mean, Dean is going to be suffering for a while. Just shoot me every time
we're going to see these like looks of his
for the next 5 episodes. Yeah. Okay. I thought, again, a great episode. It was nice to see them like on the hunt and not doing like, it wasn't based on Dad. You know, it wasn't a mission that Dad sent them on. It wasn't going to solve anything for Dad, or their story wasn't going to change. It was just a hunt. And so it was great to see them just like on a hunt. Yeah. I liked it. I mean, like you said, there was some campy writing. I thought
there were some moments where I was like, this is a little too obvious for me, maybe. Yeah. And maybe this is just, since we've been doing this, it kind of forces me to think about it a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm starting to notice these types of things, whereas before I wouldn't
just
have.
watched it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just watch it and enjoyed it because I'm
that's
usually a fairly surface level kind of person, you know.
But that's all you're supposed to do is just watch it and have your escapism for that hour and then be done. I mean, it would be nice. They do want you to think about the show after it's over.
Yeah.
But I don't think they expected any of us, to be doing this, you know?
Right. I mean, I love the introduction of Gordon as a character. I love Sterling K. Brown as Gordon. I think he was an excellent choice for his character.
Again, I was like, can't read a thing on him.
Right. All right. Thank you so much, folks, for listening to us on our 3rd episode of the 2nd season. Please follow us on all of the things. We are at Salt and Burn This on Twitter and at Salt and Burn This Pod on Facebook and Instagram. We post fun GIFs. We're starting to post ourselves. We're trying to come from behind the camera / microphone or, you know, whatever. And be like, these are our faces.
See if you can figure us out.
Take that as you will.
Just go back to the GIFs, please.
Yeah. Please, if you enjoy us, subscribe, rate, share, comment on our things. We would really appreciate it. You can find us pretty much on anywhere you can find podcasts. Okay, we will see you next week for Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things.
So they really have gone from Scarecrow to full sentences of children shouldn't play with dead things. So I don't know this episode.
Me neither.
I didn't even do a peek, so I don't know what's in store. So I can't even say, oh, it's clowns. Nope. I hate clowns, you know.
Yep, me neither.
Bloodlust. I bet there's blood, you know, but I bet there's dead things in this one.
Oh,
just gonna,
probably.
You know,
a
venture a guess
maybe?
there. Yeah. Oh, playing with dead things. All right.
Okay. We will see you next week. That's our cue.
Bye. Bye.